this is my review of my session, the planning of my session, and the program that I planned for this client. So these are the aims for my client. The aims of the program were to improve his cardiovascular fitness, his speed, and his muscular strength. And I'm going to use fitness tests in different sessions to find out if he's actually managed to develop these components of fitness. So we're going to use a yo-yo test for the cardiovascular fitness, 35-meter sprint time for speed, and a max weight bench press for muscular strength. So the specific aims of this session are to use body weight to help improve his muscular strength and to develop cardiovascular endurance. And we're going to check. The way we're going to do this is we're going to complete all of the content that I've planned for this session. So this is the risk assessment for the session. So in the fitness suite, you've got a couple of hazards like the dumbbells and the kettlebells are all on the floor, so you can trip over them. And this is just how I'm going to deal with it and the risk rating of it. So these are some health screening things that I did with my client. So his resting heart rate is 62 beats per minute, and the average for a 16-year-old male is 60 to 100 beats per minute. So he's pretty average for his heart rate. His resting blood pressure is 115/90. This is again very similar to the average for a 16-year-old male, which is 120/80. And then his peak flow test result was 503, which is actually more than the average 16-year-old male, which is because the average for a 16-year-old male is 484. So the content of this session is cardiovascular and body weight training session. So my client Dan Barden, he is a footballer for Mile FC, and he plays centre back. He's generally quite fit and well. He has no injuries or medical conditions that he's told me of, and he has no particular behavioural or learning issues. So this session is going to take place in the sports hall and in the fitness suite. So for this session, I need a 25 by 10 metre space in the sports hall, a rowing machine, an exercise mat in the fitness suite. I need 2 cones, a rowing machine, and an exercise mat. So health and safety is very important. So I'm going to check that the sports hall goals are clipped into their harnesses properly, so that Dan can't trip on them, and that the floor is dry. Also, in the fitness suite, I'm going to check that the rowing machine. Well, here we got emergency procedures and contingency plan. So I will call an ambulance if Dan extremely injures himself, but this shouldn't happen because I'm going to instruct him with the correct technique and the correct form, and I will follow the health and safety procedures of the building. So if there's a fire alarm, if the fire alarm goes off, we will exit through the fire escape to the point on the tennis courts. Well, here, this is where I've had to change my plan a bit, because originally I planned to use the spin bikes instead of the rowing machine. But when I was prepping for the session, I tested the spin bike to check that it worked properly and they were unsafe. So instead of using the spin bike, we've used the rowing machine. And then we've got so when I meet Dan, I'm going to be in control, but I'm going to be calm and I'm going to be motivating. I'm going to ask how he's feeling, check that he's got no injuries since we last met, and check there's no reasons that he can't participate. So I'm going to tell him what we're doing in the session, what the content is, what our targets for the session are, and how we're going to test these. And then I'm going to say it in a warm and friendly but yet professional manner. So for our warm up, across the sports hall, we're going to do walking lunges, squats, leg crossovers, or known as karaoke. We're going to open and close the gate. We're going to do ankle extensions, do some dribbling, some keepy uppies, and then we're going to do, to incorporate a bit of skill into the warm up, we're going to use we're going to get down to sprint forwards, sprint backwards at 70% pace for 20 metres, and then at the end he's going to jump, and I'll feed a ball up to him and he'll jump and perform a clearing header to try and work on a little bit of football technique. So for the activity, originally I planned to do a spin class with Dan for 15 minutes. So it's going to be a high intensity spin class, and every 2 minutes we would increase the resistance on the spin bike. And then for a minute at each resistance, Dan was going to do a press up on the handlebars, or a press up or tricep dip. But because the spin bikes were out of use, I used a rowing machine instead, and I did a very similar session. So we went on the rowing machine for 15 minutes at a high intensity, started off at a low resistance, and then every 2 minutes we increased the resistance on the rowing machine. And then after we did the rowing machine, we did a circuit training session. This involved a 1 minute max rep press up, a 1 minute max rep sit up, a 1 minute max rep squat, and a 2 minute max rep walking plank. Dan will get 30 seconds rest in between each exercise, and he, after 2 minutes rest, once he's completed the circuit, he'll get 2 minutes rest, and then we'll repeat. Then we'll do the circuit again. So to cool down, we're going to go for a gentle jog around the sports hall, and do a series after we've done the gentle jog to bring the pulse back down. We're going to do a series of static stretches so that it doesn't get too much cramp and to move any lactic acid from the muscles. Then Dan's going to fill out a feedback sheet to be helpful so that I can work on what I need, and then I'll summarise the session, give Dan some praise about how well he did, and finish. And then I'll return the cones to the storeroom and put the rowing machine and mats in their right place in the fitness suite. So the specific session aims were to use body weight to improve muscular strength and to develop cardiovascular endurance, and we were going to do this by completing all of the planned content, which Dan successfully did. So he has used his body weight to help improve muscular endurance, and the rowing machine exercise will have helped to develop his cardiovascular endurance. So my client review evaluation form. So asked Dan open questions, and he said that I had good communication. I made sure he was comfortable at all times. He felt that the session met all of the aims that I told him it would at the start. Okay, he said that to start with I was a little bit nervous and on edge, but as the session progressed, motivation got better and I relaxed more. He said I was very professional throughout, but when I was doing sit-ups in the circuits, I assumed it was all right for me to put my feet on Dan's to help with his form. I didn't check. And Dan said that he felt the session was well planned because it was challenging but not too hard, and there was no gaps in between while I was trying to work out what to do. So, strengths and areas for improvement for my session. I had some good strengths. Once I had relaxed, my explanation and motivation was really good, and I kept it going throughout. When I found out the spin bike didn't work, I adapted the program at short notice to use the rowing machines instead. And the content of my session was good. It was enjoyable and it was challenging, but it wasn't too challenging. And it met all the aims that I told the client at the start of the session. However, my session wasn't perfect, and I have got areas for improvement. So I started off a bit nervous and on edge. So I need to try and be a bit more relaxed and from the start, relaxed and motivating from the start, because this will help get my client in a better frame of mind, and he'll be more motivated to complete the session. I didn't do a demonstration for all of the exercises, so I think it was the rowing machine that I didn't do a demonstration for. I assumed that he would know the correct form. I should have done this because if he didn't know the correct form, it could have caused him injury or harm. Also, I didn't ask before I put my feet on the client while he was doing sit-ups, so my standard of professionalism dropped. And this is bad because it makes me look less professional and less like I know what I'm doing. So the program aims were to improve cardiovascular fitness, improve speed, improve muscular strength, and we were going to test this using the yo-yo test, a 30 times 35 metre sprint and a max weight bench press. So the program I wrote for Dan was good, and it had good strengths. So the progressive overload of the content was good. So as the weeks got improved, as we progressed through the program, I increased the frequency, the intensity, and the resistance on Dan to help so that I progressively overloaded his muscles and put strain on them so that he could build muscle and gain muscular strength. So the progressive overload of the content in the whole program was good, and as we got through the program, I allowed for how much his muscles would have developed by that point in the components of fitness that we were training. However, there were areas for improvement. Some parts of my program were a bit repetitive, so the client may have got a bit bored, and this may have led to tedium, and the client may have could lose motivation through this because he's bored, and he could lose motivation to a point where he doesn't want to come to the sessions anymore, and he stops turning up. And this is bad because he's not going to achieve or get all the benefits that he should from the program.